Roman Bellick, a Grand Theft Auto 4 character, shows up in Liberty City with a broken taxi, a beat-up depot and broker, and big dreams. He's always smiling, always calling Nico to go bowling, and even when things go bad, he still thinks they'll figure it out. The two of them get dragged through shootouts, blown up businesses, and shady jobs, but Roman keeps talking about starting a family and running a legit business. He really believes that one day, things will calm down and life will finally make sense. Even after losing the depot and getting kidnapped by loan sharks, Roman still pushes forward. He talks his way into deals and never stops chasing that peaceful life he swore they could have. By April 30th, 2008, it finally feels like that day has come. Roman's marrying Mallory at the Old Borough Church. Everyone's dressed up, smiling, and Nico's right there beside him. For once, it feels like things are actually going right, but just as they step outside, a black car pulls up and a guy working for Dimitri walks out with a gun. He fires at Nico, but the shot hits Roman right in the chest. Roman drops while Mallory screams and Nico dives down, trying to stop the bleeding. But it's no use. Roman's gone in seconds. His blood's on Nico's hands and all the choices that led to this crash down at once. A few days later, on May 3rd, 2008, they would bury Roman at Calvary Cemetery. It's raining and nobody says much. Mallory stands by the grave crying and tells Nico she's pregnant. That should be good news, but it just makes the whole thing heavier. Roman spent the whole game building a future, and now he's not even around to see it. Johnny Clebs, a Grand Theft Auto 4. The lost and damned character is the kind of guy who's been through everything. He's a biker, a brother, and for a while, the glue that holds the Lost MC together. You play as him in TLAD, watching him try to keep his crew from falling apart while juggling gang politics, drugs, and betrayals. He's not perfect, but he's loyal, and he really tries to be the one stable thing in a world full of chaos. After Liberty City, he heads west with his girlfriend Ashley to try and start over, but things never really settle. By 2013, Johnny's in Blaine County, still riding with what's left of the Lost, but things have changed. Ashley's hooked on meth, the crew's falling apart, and Johnny's not the same. During the mission, Mr. Phillips, he storms into a trailer where Trevor is holed up with Ashley. He's hurt, angry, and looking for answers, but Trevor doesn't argue. He gets up, headbutts Johnny to the floor, then stomps his skull in without a second thought. Unfortunately, Johnny dies right there on the dirty ground, while Ashley screams over his body. It's one of the most brutal moments in the series, and it really caught players off guard. This wasn't some nameless NPC or throwaway side character. Johnny was a main protagonist, someone players connected with for hours in The Lost and Damned. To see him killed so fast, so violently, without any closure feels like a gut punch. It wasn't just a death, it was a full erasure of everything he fought for. Catalina, a Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, and GTA 3 character, is probably one of the most chaotic people in the series. She starts off in San Andreas as CJ's girlfriend, but she's far from loyal. The two rob stores and gas stations together, but once CJ starts pulling away, she snaps. She dumps him with a nasty voicemail and leaves the state with Claude, the silent protagonist who later stars in GTA 3. It's fast, messy, and you can tell Catalina isn't the type to look back. By 2001, Catalina's in Liberty City with Claude, pulling off bank heists and running with the Colombian cartel, but like always, she betrays the people closest to her. At the start of GTA 3, she turns on Claude during a robbery, shoots him point blank, and leaves him for dead. Claude survives and spends the rest of the game slowly climbing back up, hunting down everyone who helped her. Catalina, meanwhile, becomes one of the city's biggest drug traffickers, hiding behind guards, deals, and helicopters. In the final mission, Claude tracks her to Cochrane Dam. There's a shootout, a standoff, and a last-minute chase. Catalina tries to fly off in a chopper, but Claude shoots it down with a rocket launcher. It explodes mid-air, and the wreckage crashes into the dam. Her body is never found. It's a brutal end, but also a full circle moment. She built her life on using people and then ditching them, and that's exactly what catches up with her. Even for a villain, it's still tragic to see someone fall so hard. Big Smoke, a Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas character, starts off as one of CJ's oldest and closest friends. He's loud, always joking, always ordering way too much food, and he's been with Grove Street since the early days. When CJ comes back to Los Santos after his mom's death, Smoke is the first one to pick him up. From there, they start riding together again, handling small jobs, looking out for Sweet, and trying to hold the crew together. At first, it really looks like things are heading back in the right direction. By the second half of 1992, Smoke would start acting differently. While Sweet stays focused on taking back their turf, Smoke starts meeting with Officer Tenpenny and making deals behind closed doors. He stops showing up to Grove meetings, avoids the rest of the crew, and keeps his money stashed far from sight. Eventually, CJ finds out he's been helping the Ballas and pushing drugs across the city. Everything Grove Street used to stand for, Smoke turns his back on it. In the final mission, End of the Line, CJ storms Smoke's drug fortress. He pushes through barricades, takes down guards, and fights his way floor by floor until he reaches the top. Smoke is there, coughing in a burning room surrounded by piles of cash. He says, "I got caught up in the money, the power. I don't give a shit." CJ shoots him once in the chest. After that, Tenpenny walks in, steps over the body without saying a word, and leaves like nothing ever happened. Smoke had power, but he lost everyone who ever trusted him, and it all came crashing down right there in that room. Lance Vance, a Grand Theft Auto, Vice City character, first meets Tommy Vercetti with a boat, a smile, and a plan. His older brother, Victor, was killed in a setup back in February 1986, and Lance has been trying to recover ever since. When Tommy arrives in Vice City that spring, Lance steps in as his guide through the local scene. From there, they start running protection jobs, handling deals for Colonel Cortez, and splitting cash like everything's headed in the right direction. They talk about taking over, cruise through Ocean Beach, and party at the Malibu Club after each win. Lance keeps saying they'll run the whole city together, and for a while, it really looks like they might. By July 1986, their crew would start making a tremendous amount of money. After that, they would storm Ricardo Diaz's mansion during the mission Rub Out, would take him down together, and move into his estate. Lance starts dressing sharper, parking his red Infernus outside, and talking bigger than ever. The operation grows fast, and Tommy still sees him as a true partner. Moving into October 1986, something feels off. Lance is still smiling, but he's skipping meetings, showing up late, and taking phone calls he won't explain. Tommy notices it, but keeps business going, still hoping it'll straighten out. But Lance remembers being kidnapped and tortured during death row, and after that, he starts believing he's being pushed aside. He wants more control and more respect, so he secretly contacts Sonny Forelli and gives him a way into the mansion vault. On the night of October 31st, 1986, during Keep Your Friends Close, Lance leads Sonny's men through the front gate. He storms the lobby yelling that it's over, fires into the walls, and runs upstairs with bags of cash. Tommy chases him through the mansion, rain crashing through broken windows, and they meet face to face on the rooftop. After a short shootout, Lance is hit, drops his rifle, and slides toward the pool. He mutters, "We were partners, Tommy," and would sadly die right there beside the water. Sonny Forelli, a Grand Theft Auto, Vice City character, is the boss of the Forelli crime family based in Liberty City. He runs his operation out of Marco's Bistro and handles everything from rackets and clubs to drug routes and hired guns. He's strict, always calculating, and never lets anyone cross him without a price. Back in the 1970s, Tommy Vercetti worked directly under him, taking out rivals and handling dirty work around Harwood. Sonny saw him as valuable, but also someone who could be sacrificed if it meant keeping the family strong. In 1971, Sonny sends Tommy on what's supposed to be a simple hit, but the job goes sideways. 11 men end up dead, and Tommy gets arrested. He's sentenced to 15 years. Sonny pays the lawyers, keeps him loyal, and from there takes full control of Liberty City while Tommy sits in prison. By May 1986, Tommy is released, and Sonny sends him to Vice City to handle a major drug deal meant to expand their reach. But the exchange gets ambushed. The money and the product both vanish, and Tommy barely makes it out alive. After that, Sonny starts calling non-stop. First it's friendly check-ins, then pressure, and eventually threats. Tommy sends what money he can, but it's never enough. Sonny keeps raising the debt, and it really becomes clear that this was never going to be forgiven. On October 31st, 1986, during a storyline mission named Keep Your Friends Close, Sonny shows up at the mansion with armed backup and demands everything. He walks in like he still owns Tommy, points at the pile of cash on the floor and says he's collecting. Tommy tries to stall, but Lance walks out and exposes everything. A gunfight breaks out. Tommy runs upstairs, loops behind them, and shoots Sonny down by the vault. Jizzy B, a Grand Theft Auto San Andreas character, runs a nightclub called the Pleasure Domes in San Fierro. He presents himself like a businessman, but he's really just a mid-level pimp who operates under T-Bone Mendez and Mike Torino. He talks big, dresses flashy, and surrounds himself with women and guards. But behind all that, he's moving girls across the city and making threats when they don't follow orders. When CJ arrives in San Fierro around late 1992, he's told to infiltrate Jizzy's world to gather intel on the Loco Syndicate. From there, CJ pretends to work for him, taking jobs like protecting Jizzy's escorts and silencing his rivals. At first, Jizzy treats CJ like hired muscle, calling him boy and handing out missions while showing off his club's VIP rooms. CJ keeps up the act, all while gathering proof of Jizzy's ties to the larger drug operation. Jizzy doesn't notice, and he keeps talking like he's untouchable, walking around the club balcony while bragging about who owes him money. He really thinks he's at the top. Eventually, CJ gets what he needs. In the mission Ice Cold Killa, he crashes Jizzy's party after hours. The guards are distracted, the music's still thumping, and CJ moves through the club without warning. Jizzy tries to escape through the back exit, but CJ chases him onto the street and corners him in his limo. There's no speech, no argument, just one clean shot through the window. Jizzy collapses over the wheel, and his plans would end with his death. Harold Stretch Joseph, a Grand Theft Auto 5 character, grows up in South Los Santos alongside Franklin Clinton and Lamar Davis. The three of them used to walk to school together, talk about cars, and run errands for the Chamberlain gangster families. But everything changes when Stretch gets locked up. He spends years in Bolingbroke Penitentiary while Franklin and Lamar move on. When Stretch finally gets released in 2013, he comes back acting like nothing changed, still calling everyone little homie, but now talking more about power and business than friendship. On September 17th, 2013, just days after coming home, Stretch tells Franklin and Lamar to follow him out to Liquor Ace in Sandy Shores. He says it's a simple arms deal, no big risks, just a quick stop. From there, they walk into the back room, and everything goes wrong. Ballas jump out from behind crates, shots start flying, and the whole thing turns into a mess. Franklin and Lamar barely make it out. Later on, Franklin says he saw it in Stretch's face. He was expecting it. A month later, it's not just a bad feeling anymore. After that setup, Franklin watches Stretch more closely. He's always on the phone, disappearing after meetings, and still telling Lamar to trust him. During the mission, Hood Safari, he takes them to Grove Street for a deal. Just like before, Ballas would show up in force. Police come after that, and Franklin finally knows what's going on. Stretch is setting them up. He's feeding info to the other side, and honestly, it's not surprising. It's just disappointing. Then, in December that same year, during the third way ending, Michael and Franklin track Stretch to the basketball courts in Chamberlain Hills. They don't wait long. Michael steps forward and shoots him twice. Franklin watches him drop near the fence, and that's it. A childhood friend, gone over greed, and nothing about it feels like a win. Miguel Latza, a Grand Theft Auto 3 character, is a high-ranking member of the Colombian cartel and one of the key players in the betrayal that kickstarts Claude's story. He first appears in the opening cutscene, standing beside Catalina when she double-crosses Claude during a Liberty City bank job. Claude is shot and left for dead, while Catalina and Miguel speed away with the cash. That moment sets everything in motion. And from there, Miguel becomes a marked man, even if he doesn't see it coming. Before the robbery, he was already tied up in cartel shipments and fully backed Catalina's plan to grow their reach. And speaking of that trust, he drives off, convinced the cartel will shield him from any heat. Around late 2001, Claude tracks Catalina's growing drug ring across Staunton Island, and finally corners Miguel with help from Asuka Kazin. They haul him to a half-built skyscraper and start pressing him for Catalina's location. Miguel stays silent, still sure she'll rescue him, but the beatings wear him down. He ends up slumped against rebar, bruised, shivering in the open floors while loose plastic sheets flap above. Claude watches him break slowly, but Catalina never comes. During the Mission Wakagashira wipeout, Claude assassinates a Yakuza leader under Catalina's orders. Afterward, in a later cutscene, Claude returns to Asuka's hideout and finds Miguel being tortured. Asuka steps away briefly and Catalina suddenly arrives. She shoots and kills Asuka, then finishes off Miguel while he's still tied up. Claude witnesses it all, but can't stop her in time. Catalina escapes, setting the stage for the game's final showdown. Miguel dies strapped to a chair, tortured by enemies and discarded by the one person he stayed loyal to. He gets no final words, no revenge, and no dignity. Catalina used him to climb higher, and once he was no longer useful, she left him among rusted beams and unfinished concrete like nothing ever mattered. His end really shows that in Liberty City, loyalty never outweighed greed, and one betrayal could actually erase everything you ever did right. Rocco Pelosi, a Grand Theft Auto 4. The Ballad of Gay Tony character starts out in Liberty City working under the Ancelotti crime family. By August 2008, he's regularly showing up at Tony Prince's clubs, demanding protection money, threatening staff, and acting like he runs the place. He says it's business on behalf of Maury Kibbutz, but really he's just using the family's name to pressure Tony. From there, he goes after Luis Lopez too, pushing him into fights and trying to intimidate anyone close to the club scene. He walks in like the clubs owe him something, throwing his weight around while pretending he's helping the business. But in September 2008, things would start to fall apart. During the mission Ladies Half Price, Rocco sets up a fake meeting behind Meadows Park, planning to catch Luis off guard. Instead, Luis fights through the ambush and knocks him out cold. After that, the Ancelottis start pulling away. His influence dries up, the payments stop, and by the end of the year, Rocco quietly disappears from Liberty City. Nobody hears from him again for a long time, and most assume he either skipped town or lost his backing for good. By June 2013, he would turn up in Los Santos, now calling himself a talent manager. He hangs around Richards Majestic Studios with his cousin Gianni, harassing Solomon Richards and pressuring actors into new contracts. He still talks like he's untouchable, but he doesn't see how far out of his depth he really is. His methods haven't changed. He's still leaning on threats, but the people around him have moved on. On September 26, 2013, during the mission Mr. Richards in Grand Theft Auto 5, Michael DeSanta finds him on Del Perro Beach. Rocco refuses to back off, takes a swing, and gets shot twice. He dies in the sand while Gianni runs, and no one sticks around. Rocco, after spending years forcing fear into others, ends up dying alone, outplayed, out of time, and far from the city he tried to control. Salvatore Leone, a Grand Theft Auto 3 and Liberty City Stories character, sits at the head of the Leone crime family, running things from his restaurant in St. Mark's with full control. He rose through the ranks in the 1970s, really earning a reputation for keeping the peace between warring crews while still moving product through Portland Harbor. In early 1998, Salvatore controlled rackets and gambling, trucks, and nightclubs. And speaking of reach, even the police knew his name yet kept their distance. In those days, he treats Tony Cipriani like a son, showing him how patience would usually beat firepower. Later that year, events in Liberty City Stories pushed Salvatore into a full turf war. After rivals bomb his casino, he still refuses to run, instead ordering raids against the Sindacos and Forellis, honestly believing a direct show of force would bring the city back in line. Tony handles hits, protects Salvatore's wife, and helps him retake Fort Staunton, yet those victories come at a cost. Salvatore starts watching every ally a little closer, and once peace returns, he's sitting in his club more often, thinking about which people used to be friends. Fast forward to October 2001, and paranoia really sets in. Maria, his wife, spends late nights at Caligula's palace, still joking that Salvatore needs to relax, but the rumors about her friendship with Claude make him furious. In Grand Theft Auto 3, Salvatore decides Claude has to go, so he calls a business meeting outside Luigi's club, expecting an easy execution. Maria quietly warns Claude that Salvatore set him up, and from there, the plan flips. Claude, once a driver for Salvatore, would now be the one pulling the trigger. On the night of 31st October 2001, Claude waits near the club entrance, spots Salvatore stepping from his sentinel, raises a suppressed pistol, and fires. Salvatore drops near the curb, his guards freeze, and Maria drives past without even slowing down. No final warning, no backup. but just a clean shot that ends it all. Salvatore, after building everything on loyalty and tradition, dies because he misjudged the one person he thought he could control. Lamar Davis, a Grand Theft Auto 5 character, grows up with Franklin Clinton in South Los Santos, around the neighborhood of Strawberry. They spend years boosting cars and joking about getting rich together. When the story begins in early 2013, he really believes their repo work for Simeon can turn into something bigger. From there, Lamar keeps pulling Franklin into street deals, arguing that the family still needs soldiers while Franklin keeps aiming for cleaner jobs. Still, their friendship stays solid because Lamar never quits on the people he calls homies, even when things get messy. In mid-September 2013, the mission The Long Stretch would show how dangerous that loyalty can be. Lamar insists on meeting the Ballas at Liquor Ace. The deal collapses into a firefight, and Franklin finally sees that sticking close to Lamar would get them both killed. Still, Lamar won't slow down. Later in Lamar Down, Stretch would sell him out to the Ballas. Franklin and Trevor head to the sawmill to rescue him, and if the player doesn't act fast enough, Lamar gets shot and dies on the factory floor. A simple red text reads Lamar died, and the mission resets. While Lamar's death isn't canon, the fact that it can happen so easily makes every replay somehow hit differently. It's honestly a reminder that even someone who's always been there could be gone in an instant without any warning at all. Michael DeSanta, a Grand Theft Auto 5 character, disappears from North Yankton in 2004, signs a witness protection deal, and starts fresh in Rockford Hills as a retired investor. He fills his mansion with movie posters, drifts through therapy sessions, and tries to ignore Amanda's spending and his kids' complaints. Everything changes in early 2013 when he meets Franklin. They rob a jewelry store, old habits resurface, and Michael feels alive again, yet each job rebuilds tension with Trevor, who finally learns the truth about the faked death. On 25th of September 2013, the mission, The Time's Come, forces a choice. Devin Weston offers Franklin a way out by killing Michael. Franklin drives to the court center, confronts him, and after a short chase, they end up at an abandoned Paleto Bay factory. Michael climbs a gantry above the freeway, slips and hangs by one hand. He warns Franklin that Weston will never keep his word, then begs him to walk away. If the player makes Franklin kick Michael's wrist, Michael falls. Blood spreads across the hood while his phone rings. With Michael gone, the Vinewood Hills mansion stays locked. His family leaves Los Santos for good, and Trevor swears revenge on Franklin. Police sirens approach the factory, but no one is left to answer questions, and the case file lists the death as a gang-related incident with no suspects. Trevor Phillips, a Grand Theft Auto 5 character, survives the failed bank heist in North Yankton in 2004 and spends the next 9 years building Trevor Phillips Enterprises in Blaine County. He runs guns, moves meth, and takes out anyone in his way. In 2013, he finds out Michael is still alive, and from there, everything starts to fall apart. He returns to Los Santos, pulls jobs with Michael and Franklin, but the old betrayal keeps hanging over them. Every mission gets more tense, and Franklin starts to wonder how long Trevor can stay part of the crew before something goes too far. In early December 2013, in the mission Something Sensible, Franklin is ordered by Devin Weston to take Trevor out. He drives to the trailer park, but Trevor sees it coming. The chase ends near the oil fields in El Burro Heights, where Trevor crashes into a fuel tanker and climbs out soaked in gasoline. He yells that Michael and Franklin were never loyal, and Franklin raises his gun but hesitates. Michael steps in and shoots the fuel, and as the flames catch, Trevor burns alive while the others walk away. After that, no one follows up, no body is recovered, and the death stays off record. Wade stays in Sandy Shores, Ron keeps the business running alone, and nothing else changes. Trevor, after everything he built in Blaine County, dies alone on a road that nobody remembers the next day. Brian Johnson, a Grand Theft Auto San Andreas character, is the youngest of the Johnson siblings and the one CJ never stops thinking about. Growing up on Grove Street in the 1980s, Brian looks up to his older brothers and tags along with them through the alleys of Ganton. He's still a kid while Sweet and CJ are getting deeper into the families, and for a while, he's just happy to be part of it. But in 1987, something suddenly went wrong. A shooting breaks out, likely a drive-by, and Brian gets caught in the middle. He's hit while trying to follow CJ across the street, bleeding out in front of the house. CJ tries to help, but it's too late. Brian dies from his injuries, and the moment sticks with the family in different ways. Sweet blames CJ for hesitating, even though neither of them could have seen it coming. CJ, overwhelmed with guilt, leaves Los Santos not long after the funeral and heads for Liberty City. For 5 years, he stays gone. By spring 1992, Brian's grave sits just a few feet from the Johnson house. Kendall tries to hold the family together, but Sweet won't let it go. Every time CJ walks through Grove Street, he passes the headstone and hears another reminder of how his little brother died. Players never meet Brian in game, but his photo hangs on the living room wall, and his name comes up in nearly every argument between Sweet and CJ. Brian's death doesn't play out in a mission, but it changes everything. The war with the Ballas, the broken trust between brothers, even CJ's return to Grove Street, all of it starts with a boy who never had the chance to grow up. Kate McCreary, a Grand Theft Auto 4 character, is the only daughter in the McCreary family and the only one who stays away from crime. Her brothers are all involved in robberies, extortion, or drugs, but Kate keeps her head down, avoids the streets, and works regular jobs. When Nico meets her through Packy in mid-2008, she doesn't open up right away, but over time, she starts trusting him. Nico, after everything he's been through, finally sees someone who doesn't expect anything from him. No favors, no violence, no lies. From there, their relationship builds slowly. Kate doesn't approve of Nico's work, and she makes that clear early on, but she believes there's more to him than the things he's done. They start dating quietly, walking through Algonquin, sitting by the river, and meeting at night away from her brothers. Packy tells Nico to treat her right. Kate is different. She wants a future that isn't tied to money or revenge, and Nico starts thinking that maybe that future could include him. On 29th of October 2008, Nico would face a difficult choice: make one last deal with Dmitry Rascalov or take him out for good. If the player chooses the deal, Nico calls Kate the night before Roman's wedding. She warns him not to go through with it. She doesn't trust Dmitry and she doesn't want to be near any of it. Nico tells her it'll be fine. He wants her to come with him to the wedding, and eventually she agrees. The next morning, the 30th of October, the wedding goes ahead. Everyone gathers at the church. The ceremony finishes without a problem. Roman and Mallory walk down the steps while the guests cheer, and Nico stands beside Kate, watching from the top. Then a black car speeds up from the street. A gunman leans out and opens fire. The first bullet hits Kate in the chest. She falls straight back. Nico grabs her before her head hits the concrete, but she's already losing too much blood. The shooter speeds off down the street while Nico stays on the ground, still holding Kate in both arms. She dies before the ambulance shows up. The bullet was meant for Nico. Jimmy Pecorino ordered the hit after Nico sided with Dmitry. Kate wasn't part of the plan. That night, Nico finds Pecorino hiding at an old casino and kills him in the final mission, but it doesn't fix anything. The next day, the McCrearys bury Kate with no service, and Packy says nothing. Roman stays quiet, and Nico walks away alone.